If you just slightly follow the game of chess, you know that Magnus Carlsen is the current world champion. However, in this game I will just show you something that will make you believe that he's also the world champion in the game of poker. So in this game, he plays the white pieces against Veselin Topalov. Topalov was the world champion from 2005 to 2006. So yeah, let's start the game. Magnus starts off with the move e4. We have c5, knight f3, d6 and bishop b5. So the canal attack, and Topalov goes for knight d7. We have now c3, knight f6 and queen e2, just covering that pawn. We have a6 attacking the bishop, so bishop a4. All this is pretty usual and is played by strong players since many years. In most games, b5 is played nowadays, or even back then, but Topalov goes for a sideline with queen c7. We have castles and now e5, so grabbing that full center, which is a pretty good thing. And Magnus goes for d4, just striking again the center and attacking these pawns. Before clearing some of the pawn pressure in the center, now Topalov goes for b5, attacking that bishop. So bishop back to c2. This is a pretty natural square for the bishop. And now we have cd and cd. We have bishop e7, just preparing to castle on the next move. Carlsen just develops. We have knight c3. Now castles and bishop g5. We have h6, just asking the bishop where he wants to go. And we have bishop h4. We have bishop b7, just getting the bishop to that nice long diagonal. And we have rook a to d1. We have rook ac8 and bishop b3. Now rook fe8, just getting both rooks into the game. Now they're on these nice files. And now we have d takes e5. We have d takes e5 and bishop g3. Just attacking that pawn. And now Topalov goes for bishop f8. We have h3, just getting some room for that bishop maybe in the future. And now knight b6. And now the following moves are just where the fun begins, really. We have knight h4. And if you look at this move, you kind of wonder where this knight might go. So the only real option that comes to mind is this nice f5 square. However, with playing knight h4, Magnus allows knight c4 for Topalov. And now this b2 pawn is on the attack. However, at the moment the queen just also guards the b2 pawn, so there's nothing to fear about. So Magnus goes for his knight f5 idea, and now is where the real fun begins. Topalov just goes for knight takes b2. The idea is now that, of course, the queen is guarding that b2 pawn, but if you just would capture, then of course your other knight would hang, and at the end Black would get a pawn more of this exchange, so to say. And this is why Magnus had something else in mind. And you might not believe it, but Magnus just went for the move bishop h4 and just leaves his rook hanging. I mean, what is going on? So Topalov, of course, just thinks, okay, if he offers the rook, I just take it. So we have knight takes d1, and now bishop takes f6. This was the point of Magnus. So he captures the knight, and now we have knight takes c3. Even going for the knight on c3. So now the queen is also hit, and Magnus went for queen g4. So what is the actual situation after this whole tactical skirmish? White is down a rook and a pawn, and has some nice activity against the black king. So there's a lot of pressure on the black position. And Topalov has to really think about a lot of stuff that can happen. However, there's one and only one move that really holds everything together, and you're more than welcome to find this move. And I will give you a couple of seconds. So the move that you had to find was rook e6. This is the only move that somehow holds some real good advantage for black. The other moves just blunder the advantage back to white. But rook e6 is an interesting move, and I wouldn't probably play it. And it wasn't played in the game. The idea of rook e6 is that if you play the obvious move, bishop takes e6, then of course we get f takes e6, and now g7 is protected. So You gave away basically your rook for the bishop, but you still have a lot of material advantage. So taking that rook is not an option. So what happens if you, let's say, take on g7 instantly? You cannot retake because, of course, it's mate, but the idea is simpler. You just take the bishop, and now there are not two attackers on this square, but only one attacker. So you would probably get something like knight e8. This comes with check, and even though it seems that white gets a lot of activity and a lot of material because now also the queen is hanging, the best thing really to do is something like knight captures f6, because if you just take the queen, then you get into this middle game, and suddenly black also in this position has an advantage of 2 points, and the engine claims that this position is completely winning for black. So this is really surprising that this, even in this variation, you don't take the queen, but rather take the rook. Really interesting stuff. Of course, you now threaten checkmate, so the only move that would probably hold this is just bishop g7, and black is winning in this position, according to Stockfish 14. So this is not an option. So what can white do other than this? Let's try something like a knight takes h6 with check. We would get king h7, and now knight takes f7. And yeah, after this, what can you do still? You can recapture with the queen, and after bishop takes e6, queen takes f6. This position is yeah, the attack just is not breaking through. So if Topalov would have found rook e6, the game would have probably gone in his favor. However, he played the move bishop takes e4, and this is a different story, because now knight takes h6, king h7, and now Magnus plays another, yeah, another crazy move. Just bishop takes f7. So what the hell is going on? I mean, everything is hanging. This knight is hanging, the bishop is hanging, this bishop is attacked, however, it's currently defended. There are so many tactics in this position, and objectively, this position is better for black. But Topalov, yeah, really believed Magnus in this position, and he took the bait. And he traded down into a middle game, which is objectively okay for him, but it's not the best move. The best move in this position is something like a bishop d3. Just preparing some knight maneuvering, which will come with check. And there are some complications with bishop d3 that can really yeah, accelerate the black attack towards the white king. However, Topalov was scared, I guess, and he took on f7 with the queen. So we have queen takes f7, knight takes f7, and now g takes f6. So the situation now is that Topalov is still up 2 points of material. However, let's see how the game ended. Magnus went for f4. We have a bishop g6, now queen h4 with check, and king g7. We have f takes e5, and now knight e4. We have rook takes f6. So yeah, rook takes f6, and now a nice Zwischenzug before retaking here on f6, just bishop c5 with check. So we have king h2, and now knight takes f6. We have queen takes f6, and now king h7. The king was in check. So we have knight g7, knight g5 with check, excuse me, and now king h6. Now we have knight e6. And now, yeah, black is suddenly not that fine anymore. There's a lot of stuff just threatened. I mean, queen g7 is a threat, queen g5 is a threat, queen h4 is a threat, and you have to constantly, yeah, really calculate all these different queen checks and the different, yeah, threats in this position. I mean, you have also to calculate something like g4 and g5, and there's just so much stuff going on. But Topalov finds the best move in this position, and it's really to give up the rook for the knight. And he takes on e6, we have queen takes e6, and rook e8, attacking the queen. And objectively, according to the engine, this endgame is a draw. However, you have to, yeah, you have to not forget that you're playing against Magnus Carlsen. Magnus goes for queen f6. We have bishop e7, just getting the bishop to a more active square. And but this blunders a pawn. So attacking the queen, however, wow, these errors are really good. However, blundering this pawn on a6. So queen takes s6. And yeah, Topalov went for b4. The pawn is now protected. And we have queen c4, just getting the queen back into the action. We have bishop f8, getting the bishop to another square, and g4 now. Magnus takes some space on the king side, and king h7. We have e6 now, and bishop b6 with bishop d6, excuse me, with check. We have king g2. Now bishop e2. No, bishop e7, excuse me. Bishop e2 wasn't even technically possible. And queen c7 now, attacking the bishop and getting some pressure on the board. We have king g8, just getting out of the pin, and we have king g3. We have king f8 and queen f4 with check. We have king g7 and queen d4 with the check. King g8 and now h4. Just getting some more space on the king side. We have rook d8 attacking that queen and queen c4. We have bishop d3 now attacking the queen and queen c6. We have bishop b1 attacking that pawn, and now we have h5. Topalov goes for that pawn, so bishop takes a2 and queen e4. Now we have king h8 and h6, just advancing that passed pawn. We have bishop f6, and you might think that you can't push for e7, but this is exactly what Magnus did. We have e7 and now rook e8. And now you might wonder, after a queen f4, why can't you just take the pawn? I mean, it's attacked twice. So if you take the pawn, then you just get checkmated. Queen e5 with check. And yeah, there is no way to stop the mate. The best thing that you could do is go for bishop f6. Then you would get takes, and it doesn't matter where you go, you get checkmated in the end. So this is not possible. If you do nothing, then of course this is also checkmate. So taking that pawn is not possible. This is why, yeah, I mean, Topalov just played some more moves, but I think he played bishop g7, yes, but Magnus just went for h takes g7, king takes g7, g5, king g8, and then Topalov had enough after queen f6. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you.